Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's time once again for another episode of OC Spotlight. The one show, the only show to show you the most incredible people doing the most amazing things right here in our own backyard. And today, we got one that's kind of near and dear to my heart. I had, as I've talked about before on the show, a daughter who's now grown in her 30s, but in high school, she was a pretty good high school athlete. And I got a real education about the world and the pressures of performing as a high school athlete today in the hope that you'll get a college scholarship or maybe even more. And in the process, a lot of these kids are getting burned out, blown up as they're pushing their young bodies way too far. So we have somebody who goes through that all the time, Dr. Deniz Armagan, who's come up with his own athletic performance system that not only helps you do more, but stay healthier and prevent injuries, and that is good news for me and a lot of other parents. So welcome, Dr. Deniz.
Thank you very much, Paul.
You have an amazing story. Let's start with that. You have been where we're talking about. You were a high school athlete, I'm assuming, because you went on to become a pro athlete, and you must have started young. What was that like, and what did you do?
Grew up in New York City, so our parks did not have beautiful grass and plantation like out here. It was the concrete jungle.
Yeah.
So I started playing roller hockey at about 10 years old. And we had hundreds of kids playing, so the level of competition went up pretty quickly.
Right.
And I had this dream after about 3 years. They had something called the Panama Games, which is similar to the Olympics.
Yeah.
And they had roller hockey. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to go for this. And then, of course, when I was ready, they decided not to do it. So we didn't really have a tremendous amount of funds growing up. And in short, I got a job at an ice skating rink in Manhattan, of all places, at 17 years old.
And I don't picture that as the pathway to a pro career, roller hockey and working at a hockey rink. I mean, forgive me, that doesn't sound like the formula for Wayne Gretzky or something here. But go on.
Yeah,
right.
Definitely not. But during that roller hockey stint, my mentors actually, one was a draft pick for the Buffalo Sabres, and this guy was an animal. He's about 6'1", 215 pounds, ripped, had a slap shot that the electric tape that we used as a puck would go through the fence and smash cars coming by.
Okay.
And he was my mentor. And he basically said, you know what, you have a chance to make it, and I'm going to teach you how. So he got me the mindset of saying, you know what, it is possible. And so being around that all the time, I was 10 years old playing with guys that were 20 and 25.
Wow.
So my level of skill went up drastically. So getting back to, I said, well...
But it's roller hockey. That doesn't seem like a serious way to take a serious sport. That's like stickball and becoming a baseball player or something.
Very, very true. So I got this job at right by Madison Square Garden, of all places, in Manhattan, and I skated as much as I could. I was probably on the ice about 8 to 10 hours a day, and I was a pylon for the first 3 years.
Pylon, okay. I like that.
Yeah, the men's league.
That was my career. I was a pylon.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was a punching bag.
Yeah, I could relate. So the gentlemen in the men's league there were Division I and up.
Okay.
So I watched, and you know what? I was like a child. I learned by watching, and you know, eventually, after 3 years and a day, I got really good. It kind of got through the concrete, finally.
Yeah, right.
And so I was getting noticed, and I was playing against these guys from Boston College and Boston University in Minnesota, and I initially wasn't better, but in a short amount of time, I was.
So cut to the chase. You got a real career out of this thing.
I did. The gentleman who was the general manager at the rink played for Yale, and then he played pro in Europe. And he's like, I got connections for you. And needless to say, I went out to Erie, Pennsylvania, and the chances of me making it were not high, and I got drafted. It was sort of an open tryout for people who didn't play in high school.
Amazing. This is like and you watch these baseball movies, Bull Durham or something here, somebody out of nowhere, out of left field.
Yes, sir.
Gets a chance. So did you play at what level, or how long did you play in hockey here?
Yeah, so one level below the NHL, so they would call that the American Hockey League right now. It was the East Coast Hockey League at that time, And I made it all the way through training camp. Was getting paid to go to practice, get an allowance for appearances. It was awesome.
Real deal, yeah.
And I got hurt right before the season started. And I went from somebody to nobody in a very quick amount of time.
Yeah, we had somebody on years ago, just real quickly, and he was talking about, I don't know if he does kind of what you do, but he does some sort of training for elite athletes. And he was talking about, I think he was a pro baseball player, or a wannabe baseball player. And he's like 11, 12, getting scouted. You're going to get it. You're the kid. You're the one that everybody's going to pick here. And he said, I tore my, I don't know, whatever you tear in your leg or something here. And as he was sliding around the base, he could feel it tear. And that moment, he knew his career was over. Everything he had done for the first 15, 16 years of his life had to change in an instant. And I thought, wow, So I my hat's off to anybody who can achieve any level. The odds are astronomical, particularly if you come from roller hockey. That doesn't seem like the. Is there a roller hockey Hall of Fame? You should be in it or something here. You should be an inspiration for everybody who goes out and plays street hockey here or something that really can lead to something.
Well, there's pro roller hockey actually in all throughout California now.
There is. Okay.
Yeah.
Who knew? Well, all right. Fantastic. Unfortunate it ended the way it did. So now what? Now you got to pivot. You got to decide, how am I going to do something else? How did this training idea come about here?
In short, I was, I think, 22, and I answered an ad in the Village Voice in Manhattan. And it was for a rehab tech, and I had no idea what that was. Long story short, is the number one physical therapist. She almost invented the whole system and said, you have 2 months to learn everything or you're out of here.
Wow.
And I paid attention. I had professional dancers that were the physical therapists there, and I have to tell you, they knew more then than anyone coming out of school now.
Dancers, well, this is the world of Broadway and dancing and everything there, and another where you really push your body beyond its limits. What pro dancers do at all levels here. All right, so you're suddenly getting a crash course, learning all this. When did you decide, or how did you piece together your own? When did you decide to do your own system, and how did you piece it together from all these bits and pieces?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so I was an ortho specialist for half of my career. I can tell you every surgery, every protocol, all the phases. I memorized everything. And then when I went to grad school, they're like, well, you got to work with kids. And I said, well, I love kids, but you have to do pediatrics more specifically, developmental disabilities, neurological disabilities. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. I'm ortho dude. Anyway, I engage the way I usually do, 100% or nothing. That's my personality.
Sounds like it is. Yeah, right. Either you're all in or all out, right?
And I noticed that the approach was systemic, multiple systems versus an individual muscle and isolated muscle. And I saw that the goals were different, but the results were also different. They were so much significantly more measurable than anything that I had seen in orthopedics or outpatient or whatever you want to call it. And so I linked that with, I noticed when moms are taking care of their children, they can do 500 things, cooking, cleaning, but they're monitoring and they're reassessing the well-being of their children.
Interesting, yeah.
And then changing on the spot the intervention to get the desired outcome. And I said, what if I did that with every single client? And by the way, when you work with neurologically involved people, you have to reassess every 5 seconds, 10 seconds, because of the dysfunction of programs of movement in the brain, like cerebral palsy, spinal cord injury. I mean, there's a lot here, and maybe we can do another show.
Exactly.
That'd be a whole nother.
That's a whole nother world.
Yeah.
All right, so bit by bit, you start seeing the little light bulbs go on, and you're saying maybe it's more systemic. We all believe that. Why don't we do that? Why is the whole medical world so specialized? You go to see a surgeon like my daughter tore her knee, so she went to whoever that is to fix her knee.
Yes.
But she had other problems because maybe she pulled a muscle or something else, or as she's hobbling around on this, now she's out of balance, and one leads to another. It isn't always isolated, I found.
True, absolutely. And, if we just think about how we're able to move, is it just the muscles? Is it just kinesiology? No. There's cardiovascular.
Right.
There's circulation. There's the heart. There's
muscles,
so many
bones, everything, and it all. And what I found is as one piece got out of whack, other pieces got out of whack. So if I'm standing funny, now my hip hurts. And I'm standing funny because my knee was hurt. One thing causes another thing.
That's a very good point. So part of the system is changing the distorted, dysfunctional, compensatory movement pattern in our brains back to the normal, healthy, functional. How do you do that? That's the hard part, and that's my niche. And I actually did my thesis on part of this, and then I put it in practicality. And
because you start compensating for what's out of whack, and then that makes it worse sometimes, or it makes you're out of balance. You're not functioning as a whole system. All right. So your doctorate is in what?
My doctorate is in physical therapy. However, I have many specializations after that, and it'd take us too long to go over each
Okay, we don't want to use the whole show going through all the acronyms and the letters after this. But you've been doing this a while. You don't look like you're 20 anymore here. And you've been serving and helping primarily high school students or young athletes or old athletes or professional athletes. Or who do you focus on? I assume you help lots of people, but who do you focus on?
That was like 6 questions in once, but I can handle it.
Yeah.
Well,
so the way my brain works.
Yeah, that was great. So presently, I am working and focusing on high school athletes. However, because of that, a lot of the parents are now seeing the results, which are not the norm. It is an anomaly. It's, and most people say, oh, I've had physical therapy and I've had chiropractic and da-da-da-da. I hear that 1,000 times. What were your results? I say, not that good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, look at what I'm doing here. It's about reassessing. It's about multiple tests, functional tests, all different types of tests that are ongoing, that I get all this data and I'm able to change things. And we're getting to the source, the mechanism of how did we get here, like you kind of said earlier.
Right. Don't just look at, okay, tore my knee, I tore a muscle or something here. What is it I'm doing wrong that led to this, and how is this affecting my whole body? All right, let me give you some real-life examples that I saw, because I was not very successful at sports. That was not my forte. I wanted to. So when my daughter came along, she was very successful at it, and like every proud parent, I pushed her to do everything I could. She's going to live out my dream. She's going to do everything. She was going to make varsity and all these things, which she did, and basketball and soccer, and she was good at all these things. But I quickly realized, 'cause not just me, but watching other parents, pushing these kids too hard, I think, sometimes. Yes. For example, when she played basketball here in South Orange County, to get on the varsity team, she had to be year-round. At some point, she had to commit to basketball. That meant she played travel ball.
Yes.
She played other things in the off-season. And I had people come to me and said, well, that's not the way they used to do it. They used to, why don't you run track? Because that builds different muscles. Why don't you do something else and that exercises different parts of your body? And maybe that creates a better muscle system. Maybe you're not all focused on just doing whatever basketball does. I know running and dribbling and whatever here.
Okay.
So the point being that you're overstimulating, overworking just one thing over and over again. The better example would be, I had a very good friend in college who was a high school pitcher, very successful one. He went on to pitch for the University of Michigan, and he blew his arm out because they don't let him rest enough times. You got to, and I know in high school there's a big debate: how often do you let him pitch, and how fast do you let him pitch, and everything? Because they'll literally throw their arm out and ruin their arm out, whatever they call. There's a name for that.
Okay.
He ruined his career, a promising career. He might have gone on to the pros, but they pushed him too hard, too much, and I see that happen too often here. Is that common? Is that what we're doing? Are we pushing these kids too far, too fast, too burning them out, blowing them out here before they ever totally blossom?
Yes. So the answer is yes, yes, and yes. And here's the premise of all this. Everyone talks about muscles and bones and all this, but more muscles, right, in sports. It's not about that. There is a neurological ceiling because all movement starts in the brain. There is a ceiling, and when we try to pass that, when we try to overextend, we cause damage. The key is, how do we know what that ceiling is? Well, that's what I'm an expert in.
And when you have to explain that. I don't understand. So a neurological ceiling, is it just believing, or is it how far you can push your body? How far you should push your body, maybe?
Yes. There is a physiological limit of what we can do. That goes down to, or comes down to, stimuli and input. There's only so much, even at the pro levels, that we as humans can handle. And I've seen this with spinal cord injury or someone that has a stroke. There is a limit for that day, for that period that they can handle. Now, we can build that with a stair-step approach, but everything you said, yes, your point is so valid, and it makes me crazy because I see what the coaches are doing, and they don't mean to, and what the parents are doing. But they get emotional versus scientific in the training and the approach.
And we're trying to stand out. We're trying to win, and then through winning, we're trying to set ourselves apart and hopefully get noticed and hopefully get to the next level. And it's always, no pain, no gain. Come on, push yourself, one more. And all of a sudden, oops, something pops, and suddenly they're done.
You made a great point. So, no pain, no gain. I hate that phrase. Okay. And I'm super assertive and aggressive.
Suck it up,
yeah, that whole thing. So the thing is, in the brain, and again, not getting too much into neurophysiology and anatomy, but it's important, and no one speaks about this. Pain supersedes any muscle contraction, and if we go to Google, it would be the first entry on the first page, pain, versus the 10th page of the 100th entry for muscle contraction. That there is a hierarchy of how stimuli is processed in our brain. Pain will always be number one.
Yeah, right. Pain, and it's there for a purpose. It's trying to tell you something here.
It saves us. It protects us.
Yeah, right.
But we can't do more than what we all think we can bypass pain.
Yeah.
Every one of us. I'm tough, right? Like you said, suck it up.
Right.
No, we cause damage, permanent damage.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we've got a lot of high school athletes out there, and I guess I didn't realize this. It's so obvious today, but I'm in my 60s here. I remember when you could just walk on to high school sports or walk on to a team somewhere here. Hey, I'm pretty good, and you try out. Now, when my daughter started basketball in 5th grade, people came up to me literally and said, "It's a shame." I said, "What? What do you mean? She's really talented." "Yeah, I can see that. I'm proud of it." "Too bad you didn't start earlier. She can never make it. She started too late." I said, "Too late in 5th grade?" "Oh, yeah, we've been doing this since they were 8, since they were 10, since they're Tiger Woods, playing golf since he's 6.
Gotcha.
And so this impulse is to start early and push them long, and maybe you mentally burn them out. They just lose interest in it because you're pushing them too hard.
Yes.
And maybe their bodies that are still growing and developing.
You brought up another great point. What about the mental, emotional, psychological aspect of sports? Do you know that 2 out of 10 children now are suffering from anxiety, which leads to performance anxiety? My nephew's 16. He's a goalie. Guess what? He has performance anxiety.
Yeah.
The other young man that I've been helping that just got 5 offers for Division I colleges for football has performance anxiety.
Yes, because the pressure is enormous at such an early age to succeed. We can't just let them play. We can't just let them have fun and develop. We're pushing them. And why are we pushing them? Because the payoff is big. And I hate to say it, cost of college is through the roof.
Absolutely.
Every parent I knew, my daughter was never going to play pro basketball. She wasn't that good. But I prayed and hoped that she would get varsity, partly to fill up for my own need. I didn't never do that, I'm sorry to say, but partly because I was hoping she'd get a scholarship. That's what every parent was hoping for.
And that's a reasonable goal. What is the percentage of someone making it to the Olympics or the professional level? I will not exaggerate here. 0.0001%.
Wow.
Do you know what the percentage of all different athletes are getting a college scholarship to a Division I school and starting? It's less than 5%.
See?
So we must be realistic in our expectations with our kids.
Yes, exactly. And so for all these reasons, because we want them to succeed, we're driving them for success, we want them to fulfill some fantasy of ours here, or because we're just hoping and praying, I can't pay for college any other way, can they get something? And so we start them early, we push them often, and I think too often we're pushing them too far, too fast, and right out of the sport and breaking their bodies, really.
If we took 1,000 high school kids throughout all different sports, the incidence of injuries is more than 50%.
Wow.
It's everything you just said.
Wow. All right, so what do you do then different? You somehow, I know you can't explain it in 5 minutes, but try. What is it that you do? Because I take them we went to all the orthopedic specialists when she hurt her knee or something else. There was places the team told you to go. There were rehab. There was people, you try and warm up and you try and loosen them up so they won't injure themselves, but they all do.
Right.
And what is it you do different?
I would say that we talked about how important video is, and it's one of the highest means of learning for us as humans. And why do you think the pros spend billions of dollars? So I video everything, and then this is an education that not only the high school athletes are getting, but the parents are getting. They are part of this equation. So I let them know, yeah, I'm coming in and I'm going to do what I do and get great results, but you're half of this. You have a responsibility for yourself here. And that's a different approach than you go to see an orthopedist. Well, go do A, B, and C, and here's a medication or here's a surgery. No. I am tapping into and facilitating the dream that's already there, but it's a scientific approach, and it's the constant reassessment every second, every minute, using that video and having them do homework and coming back and, I have a question on this. It's an interaction just like college and university is. That's the difference.
I never thought of that, and yet that's what all the pros do is they endlessly watch video. They endlessly watch.
Yes.
Of themselves, of the competition, of everything to try and improve and get better.
Absolutely.
We have, this is a strange connection here, but one of our show hosts, Charlie Hedges, his son is a professional baseball player. He's a starting catcher for the Cleveland Guardians. And I asked him once, I said, what does he do most of the time? Because he said, he's always training. I said, so is he just physically working? I said, yeah, he does do that. Is he practicing his baseball moves and batting? Of course he does that. He said, but what he does more than you would imagine is watch film, watch tape over and over and over again. The competition, himself, other players and everything, constantly trying to catch that thing he missed.
Yes. I mean, one of the things that I do is I collaborate with coaches. So a coach will say, hey, little Johnny is great in A, B, and C, but he needs to work on D, E, and F. From a biomechanics and neurological point of view, I can come in and see that video and say, well, he needs to do A, B, and C to get to that point. And that I really feel blessed that I had some of the hardest professors on the East Coast that were experts in neurology and biomechanics and kinesiology, and they saw my hunger and they pushed me beyond what I thought my limit was. But that's in there, and that's what separates me. There's 10 people like me in the pros for each pro athlete doing this multiple times a day.
And I don't think anybody, my daughter's 30 now, so this was 15 years ago when she was going through this. So I don't remember. There were lots of coaches, lots of programs, lots of approaches to how to get them to the next level. And we tried them all. And some of them, they knew what they're doing. Some of them I wasn't so sure about here. It was a lot of money and seemed like a big waste.
Sure.
And different people, I suppose, respond to different things. But what you're talking about seems to make sense. It's what professional athletes do. Let's start by looking at it as a whole, and let's start by really filming it so everybody can see what we're doing. They can see what they're doing. We can see what we're doing. Does it become more obvious on film? Does it stand out better?
Absolutely, because we all think we're moving to the right when in reality we may just be moving a few inches. So our ability to recognize what we're doing, we're not very good at assessing ourselves. And as we get older, that gets worse.
Yeah. I'm great. I'm doing good. Well, my late father, who loved golf, he used to go later in life and go at golf shops, and they would film him, somehow videotape his swing and stuff. And he was always amazed at what he saw, because I didn't think I was doing that. I'm not dropping my head or whatever he was doing wrong. Or lifting his head. I guess you're lifting your head half the time, looking where the ball's going.
Right.
Whatever it is, it sounds like you're onto something, because I saw you sent me some materials. Wow, some people raving. I mean, not just, hey, this is good, but this guy's a miracle worker. Is that what you are, the miracle worker?
Well, I'm a Christian, so that's got it.
That's a little strong, maybe.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm not even in the same ballpark, but I do tap in. I would say my system that also differentiates me, it's customized, specialized, and personalized all the time.
Wow.
And it's always evolving.
Well, you've written a book, too. Tell us quickly about that. This was just kind of on your own personal experience. Step Out on the Water. Wow, that's a good Christian message. Can you really get out of the boat and walk on water here when called to do so here? We all sink. We all doubt.
Oh, absolutely. And from that point of view, without God, I can't do anything. I don't have breath. I wrote that book because I feel that I've been through quite a bit in my life, and maybe another time we can talk about this, but I'm here and I'm thriving, and from all the obstacles, I have witnessed miracles, medical miracles, using science-based approaches. But where people, I had one lady who had a stroke. We were out in Princeton University. Whole right side was knocked out. Vision, speech, everything. Right. She was like a marionette. She walked out of the clinic in 3 weeks. That doesn't happen.
No.
That's an anomaly.
No, usually once it sets in, that's what it is for life here.
And I have so many stories and I wrote a few of them in that book to inspire. And that's what I feel my purpose is, to provide hope and inspiration and encouragement and specialized knowledge to not only thrive physically, but mentally and emotionally. And the water is really the key to life. And it's so interesting how we're here in, Ocean County, but I'm in San Diego. Yeah. I'm sorry, Orange County. And we're surrounded.
It might as well be Ocean County.
Yeah,
we're surrounded. Everything is ocean on the East Coast and the West Coast, both here. Yeah.
And what's so cool is people from all different cultures, all different religions have related. I went on a book signing tour at Barnes & Noble's, and they came up to me and said, we've been hearing this in our culture, in India and Asia. And
water.
I said, yeah.
The healing power of water.
The healing power of water. And from a science point of view, I had a lot of injuries, and I've healed myself. And what do you think the pros do? They're in the water to heal. Yeah. The buoyancy provides neurological support, just like a blanket on us, and we're able to move. And just as a sidebar with that, one of my first degrees, I was at the top hospital.
One of my first degrees. Not my fifth degree.
I'm a super nerd. I am. I admit it.
Not many people say my first degree.
It was one of the hospitals that specialized with neurological disorders. I swear, folks, I wish you were there. I saw a gentleman who was a quadriplegic, so basically his spinal cord was severed.
Yeah.
And in the water, he started moving his extremities. How is this possible? From a neurological point of view, the support, the input, tapped into it's called a central pattern generator. Basically, it's a rate that we all walk at. Mm-hmm. And when I saw that, I'm like, I have to learn more about this. And that's why I want to get to the world. Whatever your condition is, arthritis or messed up spine or whatever, get in the water.
Get in the water. All right. Well, I can't disagree with you. There is something magic about water. You are buoyant. You move easier in the water. And something about it, I don't know if it's just in my head or not, but it seems more soothing, seems more relaxing. It seems to have some healing power. I don't know why or how. Maybe I'm just imagining it, but there is something to that metaphor here. Well, thank you for coming in. So much more to talk about here. How do people find you if they want to learn more about who you are and what you do? Because it's a very special. You just kind of work one-on-one with people, right? You don't have large clinics, I don't think, or maybe you do?
Yeah, we're not going to go the clinic route. Been there, done that. There are going to be some sort of sports training groups on the beach and stuff, but we're kind of developing that. Okay. Right now I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm all over social media, YouTube. If you just punch in Dr. Deniz Armagan with a Z.
I won't even ask you why Dennis has a Z in it here. There must be a reason for that.
Well, my father was from Turkey, and actually it means ocean. So
see, there's the water again here.
Yeah,
there
so my peaceful healing place, I actually do Tai Chi by the rocks right on the cover of my book on Coronado Island to heal myself, to rejuvenate. And you mentioned the calming and the support you get mentally, emotionally from the water. Oh, yeah. There's a lot of links in my book that will talk about the science aspect of that it's real, the research behind it.
There you go. They always say whatever you name a child is going to really propel them in a direction that you may not imagine. Somehow your father, by adding a Z, showed you a path to the water, it sounds like here, if that has any connection here.
Yeah, I can't take any credit about that, but I'm thankful.
Well, thank you. I'm thankful you came by today here again. Give us, spell your name, Dr. I say Dennis, but it's like Deniz.
Yep, Deniz. And it's Armagan, not Armageddon. It's right. A-R-M-A.
This isn't the end. This is the beginning.
The beginning. A-R-M-A-G-A-N, like Nancy.
Okay. And social media, websites, LinkedIn, all that kind of good stuff. You came to us. I was very intrigued by what you did, and I thought this is a perfect example of what we try and profile in this show here. Thanks so much for coming by.
Thank you so much, Paul. It's my pleasure.
Well, there you have it, folks. If that's not an inspiring story, if that doesn't intrigue you to learn more, I don't know what will. It's why we do this show, OC Spotlight, to showcase the most incredible people doing the most amazing things right here in our own backyard, here in Orange County's only community radio station, OCTalkRadio.net.